The man was enormous. In her memoir, Lucille Ball is completely honest about everything. On August 6, 1911, Lucille Desire Ball was born in Jamestown, New York. Jamestown is a small town located in the western portion of the state, and is well known for its hardworking population and close-knit neighborhoods. Lucille Ball was born in Jamestown. Her mother, Desiree Day Evelyn Hunt, was a tenacious and resourceful woman of French, Irish, and English descent. Her father, Henry Durrell Ball, was a hard-working telephone lineman employed by the Bell Telephone Company. She was the first child of her parents. Lucille's early life was molded by poor means, but she would eventually transform her humble beginnings into a story of rags to riches that would resonate with millions of others. She had one sibling, a younger brother named Fred Ball, with whom she would establish and maintain a close relationship throughout the entirety of her personal life. In the year 1915, when Lucille was only 3 years old, the young family was struck by a terrible tragedy. As a result of the limited availability of clean water and medical care in the early 20th century, her father, Henry, became dangerously ill with typhoid fever, a disease that was far more prevalent and fatal during that time period. His untimely passing left his family in a condition of utter devastation and precarious financial situation. This terrifying day remained ingrained in Lucille's mind for the rest of her life, continuing to haunt her. It was with eerie precision that she recalled a bird discovering that it had become ensnared within their house, an experience that led to the development of a lifelong phobia of birds, sometimes known as ornithophobia. This horrific occurrence not only signaling the beginning of a time of instability and uncertainty that would define her formative years, but it also marked the beginning of the loss of her father. After Henry Ball passed away, Desiree Hunt made the tough choice to relocate herself and her 2 children to the home that she shared with her own parents in Celeron, New York. Celeron is a small community located just outside of Jamestown. Although Lucille's maternal grandparents were able to give them with a roof over their heads, life was not an easy one for them. In order to care for her family, her mother took on the difficult task of working at a factory, where she frequently put in long hours for a meager income. It was in 1919 when Desiree decided to wed Edward Peterson in an effort to establish a more secure existence for herself. Nevertheless, the marriage brought forth yet another disruption. While Edward and Desiree moved to a new location in the hopes of finding better employment possibilities, they did not bring Lucille and Fred with them. Edward Peterson's parents, who were conservative Swedish immigrants who held staunch, traditional values, were the ones who were entrusted with the responsibility of childcare for the children. Being raised by the Peterson grandparents was a difficult and emotionally suffocating experience of life. Lucille experienced feelings of being misunderstood and limited as a result of the rigid household rules and the lack of affection. She began to defy authority, which resulted in the development of a daring and mischievous spirit that would later serve her well in humor, but also produced stress in her childhood before she became successful in comedy. She began to escape into her own world of play acting and make-believe, establishing the early seeds of her career in the entertainment industry. Her spirit and imagination were frequently at odds with the stringent demands that were placed upon her. In 1927, when Lucille was 16 years old, she was experiencing yet another life-changing event. The family was left with an everlasting mark as a result of a tragic accident that involved a boy from the village. Her younger brother, Fred Ball, was playing with a weapon when it unintentionally discharged, injuring and paralyzing the youngster. Fred Ball was unable to live through the incident. The incident resulted in a costly lawsuit being filed against the Ball family, despite the fact that Fred was still a kid at the time. Because he was unable to pay for the financial damages, their grandfather was compelled to sell his property in order to receive compensation for the settlement. Because of this terrible occurrence, the family was forced to endure even more severe financial and emotional difficulties, and they were left with a cloud of guilt and grief hovering over them. Regardless of the challenges she faced, Lucille never wavered in her will to accomplish her career goals. It was in the same year, 1927, that she became a student at the highly regarded John Murray Anderson School for the Dramatic Arts, which was located in New York City. Her first official step towards a career in performing was taken at that moment. On the other hand, her time spent there was not constructive. B, who would go on to become a cinematic legend, was one of her classmates. Davis, who surpassed her contemporaries in terms of both her theatrical talent and her grace. In contrast, Lucille was uncomfortable and unsure of herself when she was performing on stage. Lucille's teachers were skeptical of her efforts, and they even suggested to her mother that it would be a waste of time and money to engage in her daughter's dramatic education. Despite the fact that the experience was extremely discouraging, it did not dampen her desire to succeed. Instead, it strengthened her resolve to achieve success regardless of the circumstances. After being rejected on multiple occasions, Lucille decided to reimagine herself in the year 1928. In order to enter the world of fashion modeling, she began using the stage name Diane Belmont. She was able to secure employment as a model for the renowned fashion designer Hattie Carnegie, whose clientele consisted of some of the most affluent women in New York. Despite the fact that she had colored her hair blonde at the time, Lucille's beautiful red hair and statuesque form helped her launch a successful career in the fashion industry. Exactly when she was starting to make progress, life presented her with yet another unexpected obstacle. She developed rheumatic fever as a result. Because of the severity of the sickness, she was unable to leave her bed for over 2 years, which effectively put an end to her career just as it was beginning to take off. Lucille made her comeback to the modeling industry in 1932, after a protracted period of recuperation. She once again collaborated with Hattie Carnegie and gradually regained her self-assurance. It was around the same time that she became known as the Chesterfield Cigarette Girl, a role that elevated her profile and led to her being featured on billboards across the country. These early accomplishments reignited her desire to pursue a career in acting, and in 1933 she made her way to Hollywood with unyielding determination in order to fulfill her dream of working in the film industry. The beginning of her career in the film industry was a humble beginning. In the beginning, she worked as a contract player for RKO Pictures, during which time she appeared in a number of low-budget films either as a chorus girl or in small supporting roles. She was a consistent and steady presence in the studio system, despite the fact that she never quite had the chance to become a breakthrough star during these early years. The nickname Queen of the B's was given to her, and it was a reference to the numerous B flicks in which she appeared. Her ability to adapt to varied parts and her outset professionalism won her the nickname. With the passage of time, her performances became more polished, and her natural comedic instincts started to become more apparent. Some of the most notable films that were released during this time period include The Three Musketeers in 1935, Stage Door in 1937, in which she appeared alongside Katharine Hepburn and Ginger Rogers, Room Service in 1938, in which she appeared alongside the Marx Brothers, Too Many Girls in 1940, and The Big Street in 1942, in which she received critical acclaim for her dramatic role played opposite Henry Fonda. The encouragement that Lucille received from her husband, Dicesi Arnaz, a Cuban band leader and actor, to investigate the possibility of pursuing a career in radio brought about a significant change in her journey. The proposal that led to her landing the lead part in the CBS radio sitcom My Favorite Husband, which was a hit from 1948 until 1951, was made possible by this suggestion. Due to her amazing timing and charismatic voice, the audience was completely fascinated, and the event went on to become a big success. CBS made the suggestion to adapt the radio series for television after recognizing her talent and the appeal she had with the public. Lucille assented, but with one stipulation that was not open to negotiation: to portray her on-screen husband, Dacey Arnaz, who is her real-life husband, is required. Lucille shown unwavering determination in spite of the initial opposition from the network, which was mostly caused by worries regarding the mixed marriage and DeCessi's accent. Desilu Productions, which would go on to become one of the most prominent and innovative production firms in the history of television, was initially established by Lucille and DeCessi together. As a result of their combined efforts, the television show I Love Lucy was produced and made its debut in October of 1951. It was the first show to use a 3-camera configuration in front of a live studio audience, and it was also the first show to introduce reruns and syndication. This event was a watershed moment in the history of television. A meteoric rise was achieved by it. Lucy Ricardo, a housewife who perpetually fantasizes about becoming famous and who invariably finds herself in amusing predicaments, won the hearts of audiences all over the United States during her run on the show. As a result of the electrifying chemistry that existed between Lucille and DeCessi, the popularity of the show skyrocketed, and it dominated the ratings for television for its entire existence. It went on to become a cultural phenomenon and established the benchmark for situational comedy, which in turn inspired generations of people to create television shows. Following the conclusion of the television series I Love Lucy in 1957, Lucille continued to pursue her interest in performance. She made appearances in a number of television specials, sitcoms including The Lucy Show and Here's Lucy, and even went back to her origins in the theater by performing in musicals on Broadway. In spite of the fact that her following career did not achieve the same level of success as I Love Lucy, she continued to be a well-liked figure in the American entertainment establishment. In 1986, she made her final attempt to return to television by appearing in the sitcom Life with Lucy, in which she played the role of a grandmother with a supernatural presence. As a result of the show's inability to connect with modern audiences, it was canceled after just a few episodes had been produced. Lucille Ball's life took a dramatic change in 1940 when she met Dacey Arnaz, a dynamic and skilled Cuban band leader, while she was filming the RKO musical comedy Dance Girl Dance, in which she had a supporting role. Dacey Arnaz was a Cuban band leader. In spite of the fact that the movie itself was not particularly successful and was classified as a B-grade film, the influence that it had on her personal life was significantly significant. Lucille was quickly charmed by Dacey's wit, self-assurance, and vivid Latin attitude. Dacey was full of charm and fire energy, and he immediately captured Lucille. Despite the fact that Lucille was raised in a little village in Jamestown, New York, and DeCessi was raised in Santiago, Cuba, they had quite different upbringings. Lucille was a girl from Jamestown, and DeCessi was a lively musician. Whether they were on or off screen, their chemistry was indisputable. A few months after first meeting, on November 30th, 1940, they eloped and got married in Greenwich, Connecticut. Their whirlwind passion bloomed swiftly, and by that time they had already moved in together. Despite the fact that their union was filled with ardor and profound emotion, it was also going to be laden with complications and problems that were a reflection of the intensity of their love for one another. The early years of their marriage were particularly difficult because of the demands of Lucille's developing career in Hollywood and the fact that their work schedules in the beginning were incompatible with one another. She was frequently on location, traveling for film shoots and publicity events, because she was an actress who was trying to break into more significant roles within the industry. While all of this was going on, Dacey was busy touring the country with his band, the Dacey Arnaz Orchestra, which had been a well-known act during World War II. It was challenging for them to establish a regular home life because of their physical separation, which was exacerbated by their professional ambitions and the unpredictability of the entertainment industry. The tensions and rumors of Dacey's infidelity had been going on for several years prior to the year 1944, when Lucille finally reached her breaking point and filed for divorce. Nevertheless, in spite of the legal action, both of them continued to have an intense affection for one another. Almost immediately after that, they made up their minds to find a way to make their relationship work, and they reunited. A new chapter in their marriage began with this reunion, which would eventually culminate in their breakthrough television cooperation. This reunion signaling the beginning of a new chapter in their marriage, and further layer of emotional complexity was added to Lucille's life by the fact that she wanted to begin a family. 3 miscarriages occurred in her life, the first one in 1942, the second one in 1949, and the third one in 195. She endured each loss as a severe blow, but she did it in secret while also preserving her public persona as a cultural icon of comedy. The recurring misfortunes took a toll on her both physically and mentally, particularly as she attempted to combine the demands of fame with her desire to become a mother. Her dogged determination, on the other hand, was eventually rewarded. Eventually, in 1951, she gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Lucy Dear Arnaz. At the time, she was 40 years old, which was considered to be a somewhat late age for childbirth. As Lucille was simultaneously starring in I Love Lucy, a show that would revolutionize American television, the birth was a wonderful milestone not just for the pair, but also for their fans. The birth was a milestone that brought delight to both parties. Lucille gave birth to their second child, Desiderio Alberto Arn, as I, also known as Dicessi Arnaz Jr., on January 19, 1953, just 2 years after the birth of their first child. They experienced a sense of shared accomplishment between their private and public lives as a result of the fact that the birth of their children occurred at the same time as the crowning achievement of their television career. Even though Lucille and Dacey's marriage gave the impression of being a wonderful family and business collaboration, the difficulties that were already there in their relationship continued to build behind the scenes. During the time that they were working together to establish Desilu Productions, the emotional distance between them grew as the demands of running the firm increased. Dacey's continued troubles with alcoholism and allegations of extramarital affairs only served to exacerbate the problems that were already there. After a marriage that lasted over 20 years and was marked by love, turbulence, and innovative work together, Lucille made the difficult decision to file for divorce once more. Once again, it was the ultimate word. The year 1960 marked the official end of their marriage. After some time had passed, Lucille reflected on their time spent together and defined their relationship as being equal parts incredibly painful and profoundly romantic. She sometimes referred to the years that they had spent together as a nightmare, which highlighted the immense emotional toll that it had placed on her. In spite of this, she never stopped loving Dacey, and she referred to him as the greatest love of my life. In subsequent interviews, a heartfelt acknowledgement of the intricate connection that they shared was made. Lucille found love and companionship once more when she married Gary Morton, a younger stand-up comedian who loved and admired her for who she was, both as a woman and as a performer. This occurred 1 year after her divorce, which took place in 1961. It is possible that the fact that Gary was not a member of the Hollywood elite like Dacey was the factor that permitted Lucille to experience a greater feeling of calm in her final years. They were able to maintain a steady, affectionate, and long-lasting marriage. While Lucille was making history by being the first woman to oversee a major television studio, Gary was there to support her and encourage her to continue her career in the theater and television. Up until the time of Lucille's passing in 1989, the pair would continue to be committed to one another. Lucille was able to achieve the emotional stability and mutual respect that she had been looking for a very long time through their relationship, which was, in comparison to her first marriage, more subdued and less dramatic. Lucille Ball, the most famous redhead in the United States and the reigning queen of comedy, was never one to shy away from candor, as she reveals in the pages of her memoir. There were times when she let the curtain of humorous timing fall, revealing flashes of profound emotion, vulnerability, and occasionally titillating honesty. This was the case even if many of her memories were wrapped in humor and elegance. When she was describing her long-ago encounter with Henry Fonda, the statuesque and introspective actor who is famed for his quiet dignity and strong film presence, she had a moment like this. Henry Fonda was not only mentioned in passing or mentioned briefly in Lucille's memories. Rather, it was a significant memory. In addition to being vibrant and sensual, it was filled with a blend of admiration, surprise, and the allure of former Hollywood. According to her, he was really large. It was a phrase that she admitted may have more than one meaning. There was no denying the fact that he was tall, slender, and dominating in appearance. Yet, his physical stature was not the only consideration. Lucille asserted that Fonda possessed a gravitational pull, a force that was apparent and seemed to emanate from his very being rather than from anywhere else. He was able to attract attention in every area he entered, even when he wasn't making an effort to do so. It wasn't just about being a famous musician. Something fundamental, something masculine in the most fundamental sense, was what it was known as. In the late 1930s, when Lucille was just beginning her career in Hollywood, she was introduced to Henry Fonda. This was before the world began to recognize her as the eccentric Lucy Ricardo. She was fighting to show herself in a business where appearances meant as much, if not more, than talent. She had been cast in B movies and minor parts, and she had been working hard to prove herself. While this was going on, Fonda was already a rising star, garnering recognition for his emotionally difficult roles in films such as The Farmer Takes a Wife and Young Mr. Lincoln. During studio events and private industry dinners, their circles frequently intersected with one another. She recalled being enthralled not just by his face, which she described as being chiseled like a statue constructed by Michelangelo, but also by his unassuming self-assurance and the intense focus that could be seen in his eyes, which were pale and penetrating. It is said that Lucille and Henry had their first genuine chat at one of those legendary Hollywood parties that was held in the hills and was hosted by a renowned producer. According to what she wrote, he didn't talk very much, but when he did, it was like hearing thunder in a canyon. There was no idle chatting or small talk that took place. On the other hand, Lucille, with her razor-sharp wit and larger-than-life attitude, found the contrast to be irresistible. Fonda was profoundly contemplative and almost melancholy. She admitted that there was an instant spark between them, a flicker that neither of them explored very far at the time. She said that they were both hesitant to pursue it. Neither one of them was involved with anyone else. Both were making an effort to pay attention to their professional lives. Nevertheless, Lucille carried the memories of their fleeting infatuation with her for many years to come. There was a particular moment that she allowed herself to reminisce about in her biography. It was a languid, smoky dance that took place on a patio under the stars. He was holding her close, his form towering over hers, and for a little time she felt protected, feminine, and utterly seen. She stated that she understood why women fell in love with him, and why they continued to fall in love with him for a long time. Following that, the comment that caused headlines was made. In terms of presence and intensity, as well as undoubtedly in other respects as well, he was enormous. Lucille did not explain further than that statement, but the inference was sufficient to stir up rumors and ignite the imaginations of both readers and admirers. She accomplished this with a wink in her tone and just enough mystery to keep readers guessing. The potential romantic or physical consequence was not the only thing that made this revelation so compelling. It was what made it so strong. As a result, it brought to light Lucille's own need, even after many years had passed, to establish a connection with something profound, fundamental, and magnetic. The matter at hand was neither a conquest nor a scandal. It was about recognizing in Henry Fonda a type of energy that shaped her image of men, both in terms of their strength and their sexuality. As a woman who had known many of Hollywood's greatest legends, including Ducey Arnaz, Clark Gable, Orson Welles, and others, Lucille Ball's selection of Henry Fonda as being uniquely massive was both surprising and telling. In an industry that is filled with flamboyance, Fonda's stillness, his intensity, and his quietly overwhelming energy left an impression that will not be forgotten. Lucille Ball took that experience with her, not as a missed chance, but as a moment of genuine, unfiltered humanity. It served as a reminder that even amid the dazzling unreality of Hollywood, there were moments that did feel utterly gloriously real. Despite the fact that nothing lasting ever formed between the two, Lucille Ball held that memory with her. A few days after undergoing heart surgery for aortic rupture on April 26, 1989, Ball experienced acute backaches and lost consciousness. This occurred quickly after the procedure. Before long, she passed away. After further investigation, it was determined that the event occurred as a result of a further aortic rupture in the abdominal region, which was not connected to the surgery that had been performed previously.